So apparently there's this lake in India where there's like a whole bunch of bones and nobody knows how they got there or where they came from. So I have some questions about that. The mystery of India's Lake of Skeletons. So this lake is high in the Himalayas. It's on one of India's highest mountains. All of the bones are either around the lake or beneath the ice, and they're frozen for most of the year. They only come out when the snow melts. That's when they're visible. There's around 600 to 800 people. The bones of those people. The locals in that area have described it as a mystery lake to promote tourism for people to come see it. So all of these anthropologists and scientists are still like trying to figure it out. Who are these people? How did they die? When did they die? Where did they even come from? There's one theory that they were the remains of an Indian king, his wife, and their attendants, and they all perished in a blizzard about 870 years ago. I didn't know there were blizzards in India. Another person thinks it might have been some Indian soldiers who were trying to invade Tibet. Another person thinks that it might have been a cemetery where victims of an epidemic were buried. There's a popular folk song in the region about how the goddess Nandi Devi created a hailstorm as hard as iron, which killed people that were going around the lake. It looks like most of the people who died there, most of the bones appear to be very tall, more than average stature. Most of them are middle-aged, between 35 and 45. There are no babies or children. Some were elderly women, and all were in reasonably good health, which begs the question, how can you tell if a skeleton was in reasonably good health, especially if it died like 800 years ago? How to tell if someone is healthy from their skeleton? Question mark. Natural History Museum. Analyzing the bones, what a skeleton can tell you. Imagine you're an archaeologist. Deep down you uncover some bones that look old. What can you find out about the person you found? There are two parts of the body for determining sex, the pelvis and the skull. Females have a wider pelvis, but there's actually a lot of different parts of the pelvis that they look at to determine sex. If you only find the skull, there are a lot of different things on the skull that can be used to determine sex. How old was the person when they died? The teeth are the most useful for determining, or very useful. So you can tell the stages at which the teeth erupt from gums are well known. So if how fully developed the teeth are can help. Once all the adult teeth are fully developed, the age is harder to determine, but adult teeth are worn down by chewing. So sometimes the amount of chewing or like worn down that the teeth are can be used to estimate age. But if that person had a rough diet, that can cause an inaccurate age guess. When categorizing how old people are from their skeletons, they're often categorized as either young, 20 to 35, middle, 35 to 50, or old, 50 plus years. So you can tell from their skeleton what diseases they had. Markers of the disease in the teeth and bones of an individual can say something about their life. One of the most obvious and disfiguring diseases was syphilis. Messed up your skeleton real bad. Osteoporosis, rheumatoid arthritis, all of these other diseases, gout, were things that affected your skeleton. How the person died can be difficult to tell though, because if you see trauma on a skeleton, it might not be evidence of a violent death. Most fractures are not fatal though. When trauma occurs before death, healing can be seen around the edges of the wound. They're showing this picture like it's going to be helpful, but I don't really see I have no context for what looks good or normal. Fractures, sharp force trauma, blunt force trauma are all things you can see in the bones. You can tell if the person had cancer by how it affects the bones. Lots of good stuff here. Let's return to base. So they also generally assumed that the skeletons at the lake were a single group of people who all died at once. But these people who've done a very long study with 28 co-authors from 16 different institutions, why do you need so many different people working on this? From so many different institutions, that's got to cause problems. They found that they might not all be from the same group of people or from a single catastrophic event. The scientists have genetically analyzed and carbon dated the remains. Some of them date back to around 1200 years. How do you carbon date things? How does that work? How does carbon dating work? Question mark. University of Chicago News. Carbon-14 dating explained. Carbon dating can approximately determine the age of things that are up to 60,000 years old, but it has to be organic material. If it wasn't alive, they can't tell how old it is. It's based on the decay of the carbon-14 isotope. Living organisms like trees, plants, people, and animals absorb carbon-14 into their tissue when they're alive. When they die, the carbon-14 starts to change into other atoms over time. Scientists can estimate how long the organism has been dead by counting the remaining carbon-14 atoms. That's kind of cool. Okay, so these people that are all over the place doing a super long study found that the skeletons were both genetically diverse and their deaths were separated in time by up to 1,000 years. The plot thickens. This makes it unlikely that it was just a single catastrophic event that killed them all. This guy at Harvard said it's still not clear what happened up there, but we can now be certain that the deaths of these individuals cannot be explained by a single event. So there's a bunch of different dead people who are all dying at different times, and their skeletons are like all in the same place. Something else that's interesting is one genetic study found that the dead are a very diverse people. Some of them look like they might have lived in South Asia, while the others closely related to people in present-day Europe, like the people in specifically the Greek island of Crete. Also, the people who came from South Asia don't appear to come from the same population. South Asia, where's that? I need a country name. I am real bad at geography. South Asia. Britannica. Okay, South Asia is... Okay, all of these different countries. Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Nepal, Bangladesh, Bhutan. Not Myanmar, though. I think that's Southeast Asia. Can I real quick just look up where this place is? Roopkund Lake. Copy, paste. Okay, here is a Roopkund Lake in India. Let's just zoom on out and see. I'm not seeing any landmarks that I recognize. Let's keep going. Okay, so there's India. Where did my lake go? There it is. So there's my... So here's India, and there's the lake right there at the very top. That's like right on the border. There's Nepal right there, and there's the mountain range. So when they say South Asia, it would be like right in here. So they're just saying people from the surround. Okay, so this is like a very different, very large demographic of people, but also people from Crete. Let me just... Crete, Greece is here, and Roopkund is there. Boop, 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 boop. So a very long ways away. Looks like there was no weapons or trade goods or anything found at the lake. It's not located on a trade route. Genetic studies found no presence of ancient bacterial pathogen. Probably wasn't a disease that killed them. There is a bit of a pilgrimage that passes by the lake, which might explain why people were traveling in the area. But there's been some studies that reveal that those pilgrimages don't appear until later in the 19th century, but the inscriptions on the temple say that the people died before these pilgrimages started. It seems unlikely that people from Europe would have traveled all the way to Roopkund to participate in the Hindu pilgrimages. Yeah, agreed. Like, why are the Greeks from Crete going to come to a Hindu pilgrimage site? Let me just real quick look up common Hindu pilgrimage routes. Heartsanskrit.com. A spiritual journey. Top 7 pilgrimage circuits in India for inner peace. Okay, here's a picture. So there's a bunch of different pilgrimage sites. I don't know if these are... This one could have been close, but that's still a long ways away from the lake and the mountains. But I mean, I don't know that these are pilgrimage sites that were around the same time period or what. So maybe not super helpful. All in all, they are still searching for answers. It's a big mystery. Nobody knows what happened at the lake, and it is very intriguing, I must say. Let me know in the comments if you have any more information about Roopkund Lake or the mystery therein. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.